The video that I'll be doing over the coming weeks is for the Bolwell Sym Scooter. It's the VS150. The goal is to get it back on the road and to repair the scooter for its roadworthy and for me to be able to just get around as a general commute. It's a 2010 model, so there's not a lot of parts. I actually started working on the bike. I wanted to do a YouTube on it, but my anxiety got the better of me and I started getting into the job, and then I realized that I was doing a bit of a disservice to other owners if I don't record what I learn as I go, especially when you go to undo things and they break, and then you learn how it could have come apart without breaking it. That's the type of knowledge that I want to pass on. So I'll go over to the bike and I'll give you a quick rundown of what I've actually done so far, where I'm at, and then what I plan to do. Okay, so straight away what you'll notice is that I've already started stripping the bike down. I've taken the front pannier off where the headlight sits, and I've also taken off the floor for your feet, and I've taken out the housing that has the seat on it and where you put your helmet and everything in. And also too, I've got started here on the rear. But let me show you what these items look like. So we've got the seat here with the storage housing. Here's our floor pannier, which looks in really, really good condition. This sits underneath that so that the rear wheel doesn't flick stuff up. I've actually given that a high pressure clean and it's come up like a new part. Then over here what we've got is like the front underneath spoiler and some other underneath panniers to protect it. And in order to get to the rear wheel, I've had to take the exhaust off. That's come up really nice, but you can see here that there's some scratching from left-hand damage. And then what we've got here is the headlight that sits inside the main pannier housing. Now, obviously that's broken, and even the parts inside have broken as well. So this I was just not able to repair. I even tried to separate it all, but you're going to cut your finger off trying to do that. So I have searched around to get a replacement part for that. So this is the air cleaner over here, and then you can see the mirrors. And this is the nose cone of the unit. And of course, because of the left-hand damage that they did, the indicator is broken as well. So the bike has damage to the left-hand side. It's obviously taken a left-hand fall. That is also why the brake lever is now missing. I've taken that off. It had actually broken off halfway down, so I've managed to get a replacement part on that. It also sustained damage in here behind the light. This bracket here was all twisted in, so I've managed to bring that all back out into position and realign everything here and get it all looking good. And the ignition switch on it had been damaged where someone had tried to force it with a screwdriver. So I got this brand new one, and this is where other owners may benefit from what I've done. This ignition came from either Amazon or AliExpress, and it's basically a drop-in part. It's even got the turn action for the cable that opens the petrol cap over on the other side. Now it's got two bolts here, one here and one there, and then what you'll have is the lock pin, and the action goes like this into the steering. However, in comparison to the original part, you can see that that's been butchered. So here's your lock pin that goes in and out of here. So the new part that I bought had the lock pin was just a bit too long. And so I looked at exchanging out this one to see if I could get it to fit in the new part. And believe me, I know how these work now, because I really did pull the whole thing apart just to see if I could substitute that. But what I ended up doing was just cutting the other one around about 10 mil, just to make sure that it didn't lock while I was riding, because you don't want an extra couple of mil that shouldn't be there. and so that has worked fine. Now what I also noticed was that the new part came with too many wires. I can tell you with confidence that the VS150 only cares about the red and the black. So what I did was I just chopped this off and I curled at the other end on the ignition here. I just curled up the other ones and I married up the red and the black, soldered it onto the new plug and then just joined it. So you don't need those extra wires. When you've got extra wires coming from the ignition, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal when you've got extra wires coming from the bike and you don't have them on the ignition, because then you've got to work out, well, what is it doing and what can't I now switch? Here we can see where it sustained some damage. So I've just sort of started rubbing this back, especially on the other pannier too. It sustained damage here on the other pannier that I've taken off. So I'm just going to match the paint as best that I can and just repair that. And then what I'll do is I'll take these screws here out, trundle down to Bunnings and just see if I can get some extra ones that look better. But in fact, I can see where I can get some replacements of those from, which I'll show you in a moment. I also found that the scooter was impossible to move around the garage, and that's because the front discs were totally locked up. So I pulled all of this apart and separated the little pistons inside, gave it all a big clean out with brake cleaner, and then I reassembled it. That meant that I had to drain the brake fluid out, which was fine by me because I wanted to put new brake fluid in anyway. So what I did was pulled this cover off and then worked here on giving this a really good clean. And then I just bled the brakes. So what you will do, there's a little screw down the bottom by the brakes. You let that off with a little tube on it and you let that spill into the pan that you see over there. And so what you do is you squeeze, and then what you do is tighten the nut so that it's now sealed. You let it go. Then you undo the nut and squeeze, and then do the nut up and then let it go. And then you watch your fluid here as you're doing that, because this action and this sequence is pushing brake fluid down inside the cable down and pushing all of the air out. So it will deplete and you just keep topping it up as you go. So now just turning our attention to the rear wheel. To get to that, you need to take like a bit of a yoke frame here off. So just go gently with that, especially if yours is old. I wouldn't use a rattle gun on it. I would get it going just with a normal socket set. And then what you do is just release the pressure. The tension is actually on here at the moment, but what you do is you release the pressure off your brakes. So that way your brakes are not expanded and they are not, excuse me with the camera, they are not gripping on the actual drum that is here. And that way then you can, with ease, just pull the wheel off. Mine needs a new tyre. Now the other thing to know is that the brake drum on the rear wheel is an all-in-one with the rim. So this is not pressed in. So you don't replace the drum. Once this drum is worn out, you replace the whole rim. This one looks in really, really good condition. And there's still a bit of life left in this. So what the tolerance is from the inside of the drum straight across the diameter to here. The maximum that it's supposed to be is 131 mils. Mine's about 129. So apparently there's like, a couple of mil there that I've got to go. But speaking to a specialist today, he was saying for as long as you've got adjustments, for as long as it works safely, it's not like that tolerance means that you're actually going to wear through your rim. As you can see, you're not. It's very, very thick, and there's no problem there. So the engine on this one was a bit of a mystery to me because I just could not find it online. I found lots of pictures of all these other engines that belong in scooters, but I couldn't find this one, and I couldn't find this one that had valves here for inlet and also valves for the outlet. And then this breathing area or whatever it is here, and there goes your spark plug into here. I will actually get a compression testing kit from a colleague at work. He's got a couple of Australia Post scooters, and so he mucks around with those, and he's got a compression kit that I can plug into here and crank it over and see how it's going. So this does start. I did get it started. I don't want to start it now because I have to hook up a battery to it, and the exhaust is off at the moment, so it's a little bit rowdy. So we'll see what condition the engine is in, but you can actually develop these engines beyond what they are, and you can even get replacement engines that share the hobby with go-karting and racing and all of that sort of stuff. So there is the potential. I mean, and those engines too, you can up the bore size to like 185, and you can even put in electronic fuel injection on them. I'm not quite there yet. I just like to get this one on the road and get it reliably running. So obviously I wanted to get the bike back on the road as cheaply as possible, and I had to start looking around for some parts, some of which I was going to have to get from Mick Hone down in Victoria, Mick Hone Motorcycles, and those parts would be new, assuming he can supply them. So what I was looking at is new headlight was like $400, I think, and $70, and then the brake lever was something like $70. Then the indicator was closer to $80, and then I was looking at brake pads, $30 to $50, and I need a new tyre for it on the back, as you saw, so that's an extra $100. So already you're well up over the $580 mark in parts, which is fine because my threshold on this bike is 1,000. Because if I wanted to get into riding to work on a cheap bike, a Honda CB125 you could get second hand for probably about $1,200 to $1,500, maybe $2,000. So I just wanted to stay well under that 1,000 mark. So it would be okay to go and get those parts at that price if that's what's going to get this bike on the road and make it roadworthy. Reached out to a few motorcycle places here in Brisbane and asked where I might be able to get a light for a 2010 Sym, and one of the guys came back to me and said, go and see Peter from All Bikes on the south side of Brisbane. So I shot him an email, and lo and behold, he came back to me and he said, I do have a Sym 125 here, and I believe the headlight might be the same. Come and have a look, and if it's the same one and you want it, you can have it for $200, which is great. So I went down there on Wednesday at lunchtime, and I found that the light was a complete match. And then I stood there and I looked at this bike and I saw that the left-hand brake lever was a match, the left-hand indicator was a match, and it just went on and on and on. And so in the end, I said, how much for the whole bike? So he said $500. Done deal. So now I've got a donor bike for $500, and all I have to do now is start to move the parts across. So I've managed to get the scooter home in the trailer okay, using the side stand and straps. This one is a 125, mine's a 150, but all the panniers and everything are the same, which I don't really need, but I do note here that this one's got a rubber matting that mine doesn't have, so that's going to be useful for mine. And the side stand, that left-hand light and brake lever I definitely need. So now that we've got the donor scooter delivered off the back of the trailer into the garage, we're going to turn our attention to that and then just sort of start taking some of the parts off of there. The first one that I'm going to take off is going to be the headlight, but I want to clean it first, and the best way to clean it is with it installed, because that way I don't have to wrestle with it. I can use two hands with my drill and with my polisher kit. And one of the things that Peter from All Bikes in Brisbane gave me was metal polish auto sole, which was very kind. He threw that in with the purchase of the bike, and he just did it a little bit by hand onto the lens, and it made a big difference. So we're going to have a look at the lens the way it is now, and then we're just going to go through cutting it and getting the lens ready to transfer into the better bike. Donor bike and better bike, I suppose. We'll find the terminology as we go along. So as we can see here, it's very, very cloudy. This is a small area that Peter just did by hand, which came up real nice. So what I'm going to do is now just go over it. I'll put a bit of moisture on here. I don't want to sit on one spot for too long because that can burn and heat up the lens. But we'll make our way through it and then we'll see how it comes up. I haven't saturated it, but I have, and I might just put it onto the actual pad as well. I think you can see that that's starting to come up really, really nicely. So I'm just going to keep going. I'll put it on the rim, I think, of it, rather than the center, because that's where I'm operating mostly. I might just take it up a little bit to speed 2. Change battery. By the way, buy the original Makita batteries. Don't get the ones online. They're rubbish. They don't last. My goodness, look at that. Look at the other side compared to the side that we just did. Chalk and cheese. I'm really, really happy with that. Isn't it wonderful when stuff like this just comes off and it meets your expectation? It means the effort that you're putting into restoring this thing, for my own selfish reason of wanting to ride, but also it would have gone and got crushed and gone into landfill, but we're going to be able to give this bike now a second life, just simply by bringing these sort of things back to life. I genuinely do get excited about that, because it's just a way of contributing to leaving a better world for our kids and that sort of stuff. And look, I'm also saving money as well. I won't deny that. So that's a great result. I'm going to continue doing that. But what I might do in the meantime is just show you around the rest of the bike and the parts that I've got. One of the Allen key bolts that holds the brake pads in on the good bike is sort of seized in. And so this part here would have cost me a fair bit of money for a new brake caliper. So I now have a spare one, and I've actually checked the brakes on this and they're really, really good. So that is also a major benefit on the parts that I've managed to get in my $500. You may remember a little while ago I talked about rusty screws. Well, look at those. So I'm going to take those as well. And this front guard's in not bad condition. Now this motorbike is a little bit promiscuous. We've got here the scooter shop in Southport. We've got Bolwell Scooter, which is what they are, but they're also Sym, which is Sanyang Motor Company, I believe. But it doesn't stop there. We've also got Canberra Motorcycle Centre. So look, I don't know where this bike's been, but it's certainly got a few labels on it. For my money, I've got the replacement part of the left-hand indicator. Here is the broken one. So that's just terrific. I just threw that one into the bin, sorry for the noise. And here's my left-hand rear brake. So I got a lever here as well. These grips are better than mine, so I'll probably get those as well. And of course the mirrors all look good. And I've also got a spare right hand set as well. The seat is cactus, but I don't care about that. What I have got here is a rubber that I didn't know actually went on these. So mine doesn't have that, but now it does. I've got that replacement part there as well. Without exaggerating, that is like a brand new headlight. And I'm actually going to take this stuff and put it on the Subaru headlights, because I tried it with cut and polish and using 2000 grit, and look, it came up all right, but this stuff's going to make it look a whole lot better. So before I pull it apart, I'm just going to do a quick will it run. So see how we go. I've got an external battery, car battery down here on the ground, taken the old battery out, and then I've just hooked up some jumper leads that worked with the other one. So I'm going to see how this one goes. Oh, we've got lights, we've got indicators. Hold the brake in order to make it work. It's interesting. It's like the starter. I do think it's drained of petrol, and I think that the starter button is cactus. But there's definitely electronics. The lights look great. So I've got some spare globes there, which is fantastic. It does have petrol in it, so it would be good to get that going. Let's call that quits for now. It's kicking over. I did actually put some oil in it just to make sure. You didn't see me do that, but I did do that before. There is petrol in it, and I can actually smell it. So I can smell it's being pumped through. So there's nothing wrong with the fuel pump. Yeah, there's none coming out on the ground, which is fine. So it's going to just boil down to spark or something like that. But I think the engine is a goer. I just think that, like the other one, it just got to a point where there was too much to spend on it, and people obviously don't have the time or they don't have the know-how to do it. But nevertheless, we will revisit this and see if it runs in the future. So I'm going to start taking this pannier and the light off, and so I'm just working away around and taking the screws out, and I can see where they all are just by glancing up at my other good bike. So I'll work my way around, and then hopefully when I come back we'll have the light assembly and everything off. So we have the light assembly off, which is great. What you'll notice is that I was using a manual screwdriver. I was not using my motorized drill screwdriver on this because the plastic is fragile, and what I learned about the other bike is that it will break if you give it an excuse. So, and also too, if you happen to have it on the wrong setting, like you're going forward instead of backward, you're definitely going to break it. So I've unplugged the whole headlight assembly from this location here, but you can see here I've got a spare ignition, I've got a spare what appears to be a relay, another one over here, a good horn, all of this sort of stuff. So I really need to think, for example, like the horn there, whether I swap that one over to my good bike, which is a bit rusty, but I know it works, so why bother, you know? And that one all looks okay. All of this is working fine. So I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to follow the old, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, because there's nothing glaringly great about these. I mean, that one has a bit of sparkle on it, but otherwise everything else here looks the same as the other one. So now what I'm going to do is take the lens out of there and put it into there. So I'm rethinking this. The good bike that I call it, the black one, has got the screw mount here is missing here. It's okay there, but it's broken here that I've glued back, and it's broken over here that I've glued back, and I was going to fiberglass up around these to give them extra strength. And I think these ones here are okay. But definitely that bottom one is missing, and I don't know where that is. And there is actually a penetration through that housing. The bike also landed on its left side, so I started sanding this back and was going to get as close as match to the black as I could to repair that. So you might see sort of where I'm going now. Maybe I take that silver bit off that's come up really, really well and put it onto the white one that I've got. All of the mounts on here are fine because I just took that off of it. So I'm thinking I put that back onto here after I've sprayed this one black, as close a match as I can to that one, because that way I won't have a two-tone black, because to match that exactly is going to be hard. So why not just match it as best I can, do the whole pannier in it, put that back into the good pannier, and then what you might have is a pannier that is a slightly different black from the rest of the bike, but at least the pannier is the same colour completely. So that's what I'm going to do. This is the one off of the donor scooter. I'm just going to see how it comes up. It came up just as good as the other one. You can see just a little nick here where something has scuffed a little bit, but otherwise it's just come up really good. And that's with the Auto Sole metal polish that was given to me. This stuff is really good. So I've removed the nose cone from the donor bike, and as you saw before, there was a ghastly sticker here which was really, really difficult to get rid of. I tried getting a Stanley knife under it to peel it off without damaging the plastic, and then I tried acetone, and then sometimes like WD-40 can be really good for getting rid of all the gummy stuff, but once again this thing came to the rescue, and it also helped getting the Sym off here. And the reason I have to take all the labels off is because I'm going to be respraying this in a black colour. So I've wet and dried that and got that back to a state where I think now it's coarse enough to accept an undercoat, and then I'll put on the best match of black that I can, and then I'll clear coat it. The indicators I took out, of course, 1, 2 and 3, and then they push out from here because they interlock into there, so you just pull them out that way. So if you're pulling them apart, that's how you'll do that. The reason I went for this nose cone is because mine's got a big crack around here, and it's also broken over on this side here. So this is set up now for me to paint. This morning or last night I also took out the tray that goes there, and I've put that into the new bike. So refitted, this is a collar that has to come off in order for you to get this off. That comes off, and then your sleeve for the ignition comes off as well. So that's all gone back on, and I've refitted what I think is the indicator ticker, put all the sleeve there back on for the ignition, done all the fuel system, fixed that all back onto there, and here's my plug for my lights. So this is interesting to get on. What you actually do is you bring the plastic in and put the yoke on like that and get it all on, and then you swing this around and put it down. You don't go like this. If you go like that, all it does is put downward pressure on here. You've got to actually do a sideways motion. So it's like stepping into the scooter is how you get this on. You've also got a screw, or a bolt, nut I should say, in there as well. So I will be going back to All Bikes to get that can of whatever it's called, and I'll be doing the rest of this in black. And of course I've got the original mat for this as well that'll go onto there. I'm going to take out the spark plug and do a compression test on this. because getting all this fairing off, I mean, I don't know how they service these bikes, because you've really got to remove a fair bit of fairing. Unless, of course, they just go and drop the motor out, which I can't imagine they would. The way to do that would be to disconnect the carburetor and leave all of that in place, and then pull the bike away from, so you disconnect here, and then you would just pull, drop the motor out. But I don't know. So the next step now is to take the brake lever off of the donor bike. So I'll need to now back off the brake in there somewhere to the point where I've got enough slack here, and then that'll pull that off around. I can then undo this and put it over onto the other bike. And then what I'm actually going to do then is take off this rear wheel, because the brakes and the tyres and everything are really, really good on this one. And I'm going to donor that over to the other one, and then put my wheel onto this one so I can still wheel it around. It just won't have any rear brakes. This is the stage where I said I'd show you removing the rear wheel in order to do brakes or whatever you need to do. So basically the exhaust comes off. So you've just got some, I think 13 or 12 mil nuts. They're pretty straightforward. And then you've got some underneath that go up to hold the exhaust and its gasket in place. They're odd looking ones. That's what they look like. And so you just get onto those. Don't use machinery, just use a normal socket wrench at this stage until you've got them loose. And then I'm going to leave this whole yoke system here on, because I've put a piece of wood here in between the yoke frame and the actual wheel. I'm using wood because I want it to be soft. I don't want to use a metal bar or anything that is going to put a dent into my rim. And this is a 22 mil nut. It's down in there somewhere. There it is. And I'm actually using a tyre lever now to get it undone. I will use my torque wrench, and the manual has the setting for this when I go to do it up. But at this stage, I'm just using the tyre lever to get it undone. Now that the 22 mil nut is out, I can now go about undoing that, and then these two here. And I've already undone the one for the suspension. And then this section will come off. Nothing's going to fall apart on you. And it's at this point that you can start to bring the wheel off. As I've said before, if it doesn't come off easily, then you may have to let the brakes off by adjusting the brake bolt on the other side. I should say nut on the other side, which isn't always easy to get at. And sometimes it can actually twist the cable rather than turn the nut, but we'll see how we go. So we have the wheel off now, and we can see the brake pads. There's a fair bit there, but I've got new brake pads on order, so I'm just going to wait and see when those come in. Now this is the part here that I want to loosen off. So what I'll do is put a clamp on the brake to bring this lever forward, and then I'll cable tie that, and it means that I can then just spin this to let it ride off. And then what I'll do is that'll give me enough slack to unhitch where the actual brake lever is, and I will then be able to remove the brake lever. So I've given the rear wheel a bit of a high pressure clean, so I'm not going to use this. And I don't think that really there's enough tread there. I mean, I know there is on the edge, but for the sake of while I've got this off for $100, I may as well just have peace of mind and get myself a new sticky tyre for the rear end. You've only got two tyres that you're on, so you want to make sure they're both good. Okay, so now that I've slackened it off at the bottom, I've actually got enough here. Hopefully I can do this with one hand. Yeah, to actually bring that around. Now, I actually need to let off a little bit more, but I'll just show you that that's obviously, oh no, there we go. So I've got there, and then I'll be able to unclip and take this handle off. The cable will drop out of there, undo that screw, and then I can transfer it over to the other bike. I have dismantled and assembled all of the parts for the panniers that I need. I've taken the good parts from the white bike, and merge them with the parts from my black bike. And so this one here is, as we know, this bike sustained some left-hand damage. So I've got some pretty heavy grit sandpaper onto this. So I'm just going to try and just take this down to get rid of some of this scuff and scratches. And then my brother put me onto some primer that fills mild and superficial scratches. So if I can get it to that point, then I think everything will be okay. From there, I will do 600 just to get rid of the gloss, get it back to a sprayable and workable surface, and then we'll put in the black base coat, and then we'll come back after that and we're going to use a 2K clear, which has got the hardener catalyst on board of the can, and then we'll go from there and see how things work out. A colleague at work, Wayne, has lent me his compression test kit, so we're going to run that on the black scooter. So a big thank you to Wayne. I've gone ahead and connected that up, but it comes in a kit that looks a lot like that. The gauge sits there with its cable, and I've put on a 16mm adapter because the spark plug on the Sym or Bolwell scooter, the spark plug is actually a 16mm. So what we're going to do here is crank the engine over. It's not going to start because it doesn't have a spark plug in there, and we want to see what the compression is in the actual cylinder. I've actually already done the black bike, couldn't help myself, had to get to it as soon as I had the kit, and it showed 12, which in the manual is a new engine. So I found that to be a little bit unbelievable and repeated the test. That works out to around about 170 psi, which is really, really good for the single cylinder bike. So I'm going to repeat that test here with the black scooter, and then we're going to try and hook up a battery over there to the white scooter and crank that over and see what compression we get out of that motor. Then I'll know whether I've got two good motors or just the one. Brand new keys for the brand new lock, which is just terrific. So the ignition is now on. I'm going to open up the throttle, brake in to allow it to start. So I'm getting a read this time of 150, but that is still really, really acceptable. But the engine is cold, and I know that I did it on a warm engine and I got the 170 twice. So I'm not too fussed with that. I just wanted to show you what the process was for a compression test. So I'm putting the spark plug back in using a nice long 16mm extension. Important not to do your spark plug up too tight. It's really just got to be firm. You're not holding a bridge up with it. This just needs to sit there. You don't want to be over torquing or not being able to get a spark plug out later. It's just too much hard work. A half a thimble of oil down the spark plug throat is also a very good idea when you're running this. Well, at least that's what the instructions say. It'll lubricate the cylinder and give it its best or optimal chance of giving you a good reading. Alright, I've got this one jumped up to a car battery, to the two leads here, and I've just used a rag here just to insulate the two. Alright, so normally you have to hold the brake lever in. Here's the switch, and you have to hold the brake lever in to short these out. So I've just done a jumper wire here. And of course I've removed the instrument cluster panel housing. So that means that I don't have a switch to push. So I've shorted that out, which means that what will happen is it should actually crank as soon as I turn that key there. So we'll see what happens. 145. I apologise for the shadows. It's just the sun's going down here in Brisbane. It is June, so we're sort of going into our winter months now. So I've just done the primer on some of the panniers. One more over here, that's the side pannier. It's starting to look really, really good. There are more to do, but I just thought I'd get a bit of a start on this. I'm glad that I'm doing some primer. This is what I'm using for those of us in Australia. This is Polycraft from Super Cheap, and they've also mixed up a metallic black because this bike is black. And so what you do is you get this can off the shelf, which has got contents in it, and then they add the colour to it under pressure as per the colour code, which is really, really good. So this is the metallic black that I'm going to be putting onto here, but I probably won't get to that today. I've still got some other panniers to rub back. So I've got myself some sandpaper, and this is my tail rack, so I've got to sand that back as well. I wouldn't mind actually just trying to buff that back if I had a buffing tool all the way back to the aluminium or whatever it is, but it'll probably just go black. So this is where we're at. I'm not going to video doing spray painting because I'm not an expert, and so therefore I can't really give you advice. I'm learning this, so I'm just applying it, making sure that I don't get any runs, keeping an even coat. I probably will lightly sand this with the, what have we got here, 800 grit. Probably give it a bit of a rub back. I don't want to go as coarse as 600, and they also didn't have it, so I'll just sort of go over it a little bit before the base coat goes on. Okay, so this is the black scooter front wheel cover. He's out because of all of that damage, and the white one's in. So I'm now going to rub back the white one, and I'm also going to rub back this fender here, because it's all glossy and I want to get that prepped ready for primer as well. So this is how the front wheel nose cone has come up after I've rubbed it back. So I got right into it, and it had a label here with some gumminess on there. I've managed to get rid of all of that. So this is a really good nose cone now. I've tried to sand down these scratches here. I can still feel that. So look, we'll see how that comes up. I'll probably rub back the primer in that area, and I did see at Super Cheap some plastic filler, which I might end up getting. I think it was about $30 for a tin that I'm absolutely sure would do what I need it to do. You can see maybe some ripples through here, and also you can see that this has got a bit of a crack there that this primer is just not going to fill. And I would say that that's going to be true too, maybe for the one that I've repaired, but gee, that's come up well. So yeah, look, we'll see how we go with that. But I don't see any problem with rubbing back the primer and then putting on some plastic filler. This is very hard doing this and filming at the same time, but I just thought I would do one. I really don't want to get this stuff on my phone. I'll finish that off and then I'll come back. That's so much better. So much better when I could use two hands and swap between. Little bit of moisture there, but I know how to fix that from watching the videos from Reed Customs, so that'll be fine. And so I've just got this one here left to do, and he's all scuffed and ready to go. So I'm going to get onto that one, and hopefully I've got enough primer left. It's the next morning and all of the panels are starting to look really, really good in primer. That was only some of the panels. There's actually 8 pieces all up, I found these two in a box and I just thought, oh my goodness, there's two more. Like, who would have thought this is a motorbike? It's starting to feel like I'm doing a car. So with this one, what I have found is, and I do recall doing this, is some repair work here. And there's a gap here. And I can make that, there's a gap there, there's a hole to fill, and also too, I can make that look a whole lot better as well. Sorry for the photography. So I am going to get the plastic filler and make this look a bit better than what it is. I'm dealing with, you know, an abandoned bike. It's a bit of a resto, so it's not going to be perfect. I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, and I don't really have the skill to be a perfectionist. But some things that I can fix, for example, I'm going to try and get onto this. I noticed yesterday that this was really sort of bubbled up and risen. It doesn't actually look too bad now that it's settled, but I'll just give that a little bit of a rub back, and I won't reprime it. I'm just going to rub it back with some 800 just gently, just to get a nice even surface. So I'm going to work on these two panels today, rub that back, and then I might actually get to putting down the base coat on some of the panels. All right, so here's my rub back on that section there, just to get that a little more smooth. And this is a comparison between the one I haven't done yet and the one that I have. When it's wet, it looks like you haven't achieved anything, but as soon as you dry it, you can see that you have, and that's all roughed up, ready to go. And I have managed to sand this area here without breaking my repair work, which is good. Dare I show you the other side? It's reinforced with a good old Bunnings tin bracket and Gorilla Grip. So I got some Raptor plastic filler from Repco. They were 25% off this weekend, which has just been great. And I've just gone down the side here of the front section. I've never really done this sort of stuff before, but I have done gyprocking and I have done some rendering. And I think that's enough for me to know that when you get it close, well enough is good enough. Don't keep working it. It goes off really, really quickly. And over here, for example, I had a 90-degree gap to fill here. So I've just made sure that it's reasonably proud, and then I should be able to get in there and get to that. I've also filled that big gap there, and I'll come through and I'll just follow the contour through. I did have a crack over here. It does look like there's a bit of excess on that one, and also here as well. Cat's coming to inspect again. So let's see how it turns out. But look, all I have to do really is just extra sanding if I've put too much there. I think there was also a scrape on the sump, you know, underneath guard here. This is the guard that goes under the bike. So that's all I'm going to do. And once that goes off completely, then I'll give it a bit of a sand and see if I've made any progress. I've done the underside of the nose wheel, and there's the nose cone. I've sort of started doing underneath there as well. There's no need to go inside on that one. And this is the rear fender here that's come up. You may see here that it's got VS150, the logo. I did my best to get rid of that. And I do have a bit of a gouge mark there that I didn't see before. Now this is interesting. Down here, when I sprayed on, I think it came up with some moisture. So I'm just going to see how that goes and think about what to do there. It might just be a rub back with dry sandpaper and then respray. We'll see how we go with that one. But I'm really loving this color, and I just cannot wait to get clear coat on it. But you can see the silver coming through on this. It's got a silver speck. Really regretting that I didn't see that gouge, but never mind. It doesn't have to be a perfect bike. Okay, this is after sanding, bogging and sanding, or filling and sanding if you like. And so there was a massive chunk here. This was all broken through here and was a separate piece. Now I've filled up in here and followed the contour. I've managed to go along here and get this contour right just by patiently sanding. Now these things have plastic clips and things like that, so it is so hard. You've either got to put this over your knee and have a go, or just use rags and just bunch it up. And I just sort of dollied onto the corner of this table and sat here and just ran it over like that in order to not break anything. And look, it's always hard because you're trying to repair this and you're just waiting for that dreaded crack sound as you've maybe pushed too far. But I'm running my fingers over this and I cannot feel any problems. So I'm really hoping that after I undercoat this, I should be able to see whether it in fact has done all the cracks. Here's another one. So hopefully all of these lines, because they're dark now, which means that there's filler in them. So hopefully that should look good too. There were some holes, so I've done my best to fill those and then just maintain that contour through there as well. So now I'm going to start work on this one. I can immediately see that there's just way too much bog on that. I didn't realise how hard it is to get off. That one won't be too much of a problem. So pressing on, just sitting here as the sun goes down in Brisbane. A little bit of low light in here, so I've just got the LED onto it. But this is the belt housing here, and everything just seems to be really, really good in there as well. So good belt and all in order. So I'll probably maybe just give this a little bit of a rub back and a touch up, and then other than that, put it back on. All right, continuing the paint job. I've had to come indoors because it is just too blowy outside and it's going to get contaminated. So the last we spoke of, I'd patched up these areas here, and I had actually repaired this. This was in 2 parts. It's going to be really interesting to see how that comes up. We also had a significant crack here, and so I've had to patch all of that. And of course, the scrape here, this is the under tray. And now what's really interesting is these guys here. See these scratch marks that run that way? See how they're black? That means that there's filler in them. And so what that means is that should come up really, really smooth. I've done my best through here to get that as smooth as possible. It's just so hard to know. Your imagination plays tricks on you. And I've gone over everything with a microfiber cloth. This one over here, the same. I came back to it to fill these areas because I'd done it on the other side and I wanted to be consistent. This area down here has been tricky for me. So I just want to be careful in that area there. I'm just going to go with undercoat there, and I think on that one there I'll just go straight to base coat. So I'll get cracking and we'll see how this comes up. So this is disappointing. These I've got some crazing going on there, which is, I don't know what causes that. I don't know if there's moisture still there. You can see this one here is where the crack was. I don't know what that is over there, and you can see some indifference in the surface there where I've tried to fill. So I think I'll just let that set, and then I'll dry rub that, I think. Now, I'm not sure if you can see this one. I'm trying to get the light onto it. And look, maybe you can't see it unless you go to this amount of trouble. But this is where I've done some repair work, and I'm really not happy with that. But I just don't know really how far to take it. Do I leave well enough alone and then just put some decal, because this is where the sticker used to be, and so maybe I could get some decals and just run that over the top here where they're expected to be anyway, and then just leave this alone. Otherwise it's come up really, really well, especially the sides. And I'm shooting now when the sun's not really out, but it has sort of been out before. This is the nose unit where the headlight goes in. This is, I suppose, your presentation part of the bike, and that's looking really, really good. There's a little bit of imperfection underneath here where you can see I've done some repair work, but look, I'm not a panel beater, and I don't pretend to know a lot about this, but otherwise that's looking really good. Now that the sun's coming out, you can probably see it's a little bit better. There's an example of what it looks like and how it's come up. Same with that one there. This is the one that I thought would be the worst, but is actually the better of it. This section here used to be a separate, cracked along here, came off. So this was two pieces, and I've managed to reglue it all back on, fill it, sand it, sort of contour through here the best that I possibly can, and I'm actually quite happy with that. I can see imperfections, but I'm actually not going to worry about that. It's reinforced on the back, and you'd have to get up close, so I think to worry about that on a 2010 scooter is sort of going overboard. So I've rubbed this back using just dry sandpaper, and then I've just undercoated again just to see if I could get that better. We'll see how it comes up after I base coat. It's not perfect, but it's better, and I can live with that. I was really unhappy with this fender, and I talked about putting a decal over it or something. Anyway, I rubbed it back and then I sprayed it with the base coat, and I had a huge line and crow's feet running through here. So I rubbed it back again after it dried, and then this time what I did was I went with the primer. Now with this primer, what you do, it's primer filler. So what you do is you just spray it into the air to unclog the nozzle, and then you just target the areas that you're after and you build it up. What I suspect I'll do after this is maybe use some 2000 or something. I don't know yet. Or I'll just go straight over with the base coat. What I don't want though is a line. I don't think I'll get it, but I want to avoid that. But this, as you can see, has just come up really, really nice now. So I'm just going to leave this in the sun, and I'm going to let it cure because it is building up in height as I go. So after trying to work out why I'm not getting 13 to 14 volts at the battery for recharging, I did some investigation, and we've got here the rectifier, which gives 13 volts output here when I put a multimeter across this. but when I go to the battery at the other end, I don't get that. So there's something strange between the output of the rectifier and the positive of the battery. I then noticed on the donor scooter that it had an extra positive wire here, which is of a reasonable gauge. And so I followed that down, and it comes all the way back up, and lo and behold, it actually taps in on the output of the rectifier. This is on the donor bike. So there's a dedicated wire that is running from the output of the rectifier down to the battery. So I think I'm going to take this wire and put it onto my good bike. So the front of the bike is now assembled, and that's starting to look really good. Very happy with the way that that's come up. So what I'll do is put the rear bottom panniers on next, after I've done all my air cleaner and all of that sort of stuff. It's really about timing and making sure that I don't take things on and off, because plastic is brittle. The rear tyre to come back. I'm also going to have to order an air cleaner that goes in there, and then that's pretty much it. It's a sunny Saturday morning here in Brisbane, so it's a great time to start putting the bike back together. I can do that today because the rear rim came back with a new tyre on it. That's a Michelin Go City. It's nice and sticky. I've got the mat prepared for where your feet go. This is the air cleaner box. I'm going to take that out into the sunshine, put some degreaser on it, and get that all nicely cleaned up and drying in the sun. I'll put the wheel guard back on. I don't know where that goes. I'm going to have to look that up in the manual. There's my battery guard, and then you can see there that that's the rear wing section, if you like. That all goes on in one piece. And then I think the last thing probably to go on is the side wings, and you can see here that the foot pedals go in there as well. And so I'm going to start putting things back together. I've moved the bike out into what will soon be sunshine when the sun comes out from behind the trees. Since our last video, I've put all this back on. I've put the mirrors on now, and these little mount points here, they were all corroded, so I rubbed them back and gave them a spray paint as well. Gone and reinstalled the floor and the front section there since we did our last video. I've also got the battery mounted round the right way and rewired that, so that's all okay to go. What's interesting is I watched a video last night on a GY6 that what a guy had done, because I was researching the tuning of the carburetor, and he had gone and installed an O2 sensor on the exhaust, which was interesting. So he could see a digital readout of the air to fuel mixture. I noticed that this exhaust here does have a tapping point. I don't know what that's about. I don't know whether maybe there was another shield here or something, but you would expect to have 2 bolts, not just one. So I wondered if that's been terminated and if it's an option for some little O2 sensor. I didn't think that the bikes were that advanced. So this morning what I'll be doing is taking the exhaust back off. I'll be taking the wishbone frame off again, and then I'll be taking out the old wheel that I've been using just to move the bike around. I'll be putting in a new set of brake pads that I've had to modify a little bit, and then hopefully the new wheel and tyre will slide off the top of those, and we can start then to put all of the rear pannier and the side wings back on that I showed you earlier in the shed. two different lengths. Just remember which one is your long one, which is down the bottom here. Soft piece of timber. Should have done the wheel nut first. These brakes aren't too bad, but I did buy some new ones that have got more on them. I could use these if I have to. These ones came with a node that went up over the top, so I've had to file that back to be the same as this. I did see that on a YouTube where somebody else had done the exact same. Otherwise they are the exact same shoe. So I'm going to give it a go and see if I can get these new ones on. Managed to injure myself already, didn't even feel that. That would have gone in first pop if I didn't have the camera on. You've really got to make sure that it's really well seated on the elbow of the spring. And so the adjustment is up the top here, so I can actually bring that in, and I will do that. I do like the idea of the other design where there is actually a spring that comes down and pulls this mechanism back this way rather than it pushing, but I'll explore that later. I also saw a GY6 variant that had a disc brake adapter here, which is interesting. Just looking at, oh, look at that, that's gone on nice. So what I will do is adjust after I've put all the wheel back on, make sure I've got some reasonable spin, and I'm sure that that will wear down naturally. I'm just going to go put a little bit of grease on this guy before I put it back on, and I'll be back. If they're not able to be put in by hand, at least at the beginning, then they probably need a good clean. Because it's important. I do not want to be going down Kingsford Smith Drive amongst traffic and have my rear wheel bugger up on me. But for now, I'm just going to tighten it up. I mean, I know we don't really do torque setting on car nuts, but you've probably got 4 or 5 of those. Plus you've got 3 other wheels. And this is why I use a soft piece of wood. It's better that the wood gets dented than your rim gets dented. Okay. So I'm just going to go about putting all this back on, and then I'm going to put the exhaust back on, and then we'll come back and then we'll discuss what we're going to do with the rest of the bike and getting that back together. Get the exhaust onto the exhaust outlet here first, because there's a stud pattern there that you need to pivot in order to get it on. And then once you've done that, then just come and get one of the bolts into here just as a location, and then you can start wiggling everything into place. But don't do anything up tight straight away. Just get everything all maneuvered into place and then slowly start to tighten things up. Run them in. I'm still not sitting on the ratchet running it. You don't want to shear a bolt. That would just be a nightmare. So I've got the wishbone, if you like, suspension wishbone in, shock absorber onto the back, exhaust 1, 2, 3. I've got to get underneath now and tighten those up, so that way that it seats up against the gasket. I think they're a 10mm, and I think I will do that by hand. Could you imagine shearing a bolt into a head? That'd all have to come out, and it's just really worth just taking the time to do it by hand. So hopefully this will work for us. It is actually hard to get onto though, I've got to tell you. It would be great if I had the right socket. Where are you? Are you a 10mm? Yes you are. And then do the other side so that it's all happening equally. You don't want one side being pinned up against it and then the other side not. Otherwise you're going to get an exhaust leak. It's very dark in there and it's hard for me to see. I think my brother has got a platform, elevated platform for his bikes. He's got two. He's got actually he's just gone and got himself a new BMW Trail Tourer. So he's selling his other one, and he's also got a Ducati, I think, Ducati 911. Which, as you would be aware, is very different. So now we're going to put the mudguard back on. So I just need to take these two bolts off, same on the other side, get that in, put the air cleaner in, and then we'll start building this up. Now what you will notice is that, you know, this grey pannier here, I have spoken about that before and how we've got a bit of a revival thing here that I decided to go with. I am going to go with that and see if I can just sort of bring it all back to life. I'm sort of, now that I'm further down the track, I'm half regretting that while I had that off, I just didn't respray it. But my mind was set and it was advised on the revival, which was a $20 can. So I'm going to go with that and see how we go. Okay, so we've got the air filter box put on. I'm going to put on the cover now. And we've also got the mudguard, which has come up really, really nicely. So I'm going to put that cover back on. I might take this stand off and actually give it a bit of a spray paint. And then I've just put a cover down here. I'm going to buff this back and then just see if I can make that a bit better with some paint as well. I've put the cowling, rear cowling all back on, and it was hard. So it comes down and it interlocks into here. So you've got to bring it in, interlock it, and then you've got to bring things over under here. You've got to come in over the top of these. It puts stress on this join here, which you cannot get in and tighten now. I mean, that is what it is now. It's not too bad. But look, it was hard, and I'm now going to get in and put the battery case on there and commit that before I go put any more panniers on. I wasn't able to show you while I did it. It was just too hard, and the video probably would have just gone too long. But you come in over the top and then you slide and click it all into place. The install of the battery box cover is worth a mention. As you can see here, there's no way that you can get that in with that cover on. And so you think, well, if they're servicing the bike or it's got a flat battery, how in the heck do they get to this? Well, what you do is you dismount the whole battery box bracket, and then you loosen off the screw around here, and then you just push this away into the inside of the bike and then bring it down. You just pivot it down, and that's the way to get that on. That way you don't have to worry about it fouling the actual fender there. All right, so this is the underneath pannier that I've put on, and I've even included the side step. So what you've got is a series of locators like that, and then one's down here. And so you insert in to the top, and I'll show you this on the other side. I just didn't want to record while I was doing this because it would just take too long. So you get it all in, okay? And then you bring it down and then you chuff it in that direction, getting this underneath. And then the first thing I did was tap that one in just loosely to hold the locator in there. And then I came back and I lined up this one here, and then I lined up this one here, and then put my side step on. A little bit of an imperfection there. I don't know why I didn't see that. Had I seen that, I would have fixed it, but oh well. So we'll do this side together. First thing to realize is that this bolt shares. It's a shared bolt. So we take that one off. I'm lying down because I want to be able to see underneath the tray how these things lock in. So you can see here we've got our lock-in locators here, okay? And this is going to screw into there, and then this one goes into there, and then so forth. And look, I've done my very best to select the best pannier that I could out of the two bikes. So I've got to have that lined up. Maybe I've got to have this in. That's it. So you've got to be back. Look at the gap. You've got to be back here. And now we will go forward, if it will let us. Look at that. That's it. And those, now I just locate that to there. These are all healthy cracks, by the way. Not unhealthy cracks. There's a subtle difference. So I'm just applying pressure to that now while I get the screw in. And why does the side that has the battery, why does that have to be the hardest one? I've actually got a better mate on this side than I do on the other. And the reason for that is that you'll remember on the other side, I actually had to repair and join that. But that's all on now. So now what we're going to do is put the seat bin in, and then I'm going to get a hold of some of this revival stuff to get all this grey thing, and then we'll put the mat on, and we'll probably glue the mat down a little bit too so that it stays put. I've put that piece of timber up there because the sun was setting and it was causing just a whole lot of glare on the camera when I was trying to show you this. What we're going to do now is put the seat bin back in. I put the seat on it, and I'm going to put the rubber mat on here. And then I might actually take it for a little bit of a spin. Okay, so the next stage of the bike detailing will be to bring this plastic here back to life to make it look like that. This was a sample of the Silcoline Pro Prep. So that is the product that we're going to be using today. So the Pro Prep has come up okay in most spots. I'm quite happy with that. It certainly got rid of the old footprint there. It's a new lock, so there's a little bit of a gap. But it has actually brought the plastic back to life. So this is the final part in the Resto series for the Sym motorbike. It's been a great journey. It's been one that I've certainly learnt from. I think the key learnings is patience. When I look at the bike, I can still see areas that I could have done better. I think the clear coating could have been better, but I'll put that down to my ignorance. Next time around, I think I will use the 2K pack with the catalyst. I was recommended the one that I used at a cheaper price. It just didn't come out of the can right. It just didn't give that even spray that you're used to seeing, and then you get that instant dump and a wet look. I just wasn't getting that. And in fact, when I oversprayed in a couple of areas, I did get it, which meant that it was either my technique or I wasn't using the can right, but suffice to say, it just wasn't very forgiving. The other thing that I would have done differently if I could have would be the colour. I reckon that this would have looked great in a pearl white, and that was my initial preference. But the PPSR report that I had on it had it as black, and I just didn't want any resistance from Motor Reg. I just want to go in there and I just want to register it, and it's registered as black. If I'm going to insure it, it's got to be black if it's ever appraised for a write-off or whatever. So that was important for me to keep it black. From here, what I'm going to do is sort the parts from the donor bike. I've got still got 2 lights and a repaired brake lever, and I've got a whole lot of other sort of parts off the donor bike that I really don't think that I'm going to need. So I'm going to lay those out, photograph them and put them on eBay and see if I can work my way back to being cost neutral.
Tell me about money.
The donor bike was $500. With that came lots of parts, the indicator, the brakes, and many other things. I'd say the paint, I got 3 tins of base and they were around about 45 bucks each. Clear coat, probably another 50. And then there was the Pro Prep that I just used today. That was about 25 for that as well. Just sundry things like sandpaper. The bog was $30 as well. So the tyre, $90. Estimate around about $800 is what I'm in for with the bike. But it looks like a brand new bike, as you've seen. I have valued the bike by looking at others on the internet. It's probably in the upper range would be 4 to 4.5. The lower range, 3,000. It really depends on what someone's prepared to pay for it. It's a 150. It's got a lot of get up and go. Thanks for joining me on the journey of another roadside rescue.